The following podcast contains explicit language.
This is Paul Wilson.
And I'm Danny Voss.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Diesel Performance Podcast. I do want to say I'm really excited to be here today, Danny.
Oh, absolutely. Our show has been blowing up.
Absolutely.
Phone calls, Facebook messages, text messages, you name it, emails, we've been getting them.
Absolutely. And we want to encourage that. Please give us as much feedback as possible. If you have an idea for a topic, if you have an idea of something you'd like us to highlight in a show, or maybe you drive a badass truck and you want to come on and talk about it.
And you want to puff your chest out on the show, give us a call.
Do it. We are constantly available on our Facebook page. That is definitely where we're the most active, although you can find our podcast in iTunes, Libsyn, or any other of your preferred podcasting methods out there. Currently, I do want to say last week's episode, we did Cummins Power, and then I think everybody got a chance to hear the Truck Advisor episode.
That was a cool episode.
That was really a lot of fun with Ryan Carbaum talking about just a normal guy who got a truck, started to put a little money into it, and throughout time, he's just kind of built it to a really awesome place, and we got a chance to talk to him about his future plans.
Yeah, he was very passionate about everything. He's got a great outlook on everything, and we hope to hear feedback from other people, too, just like that.
Absolutely. Dwight Kroon jumping in on Facebook. I think he'll be up here soon. Chris O'Kane might be on in the future.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so some different guys in the industry. Please, we encourage you, if you have a small build, a big build, if you've been in this industry for a year or 100 years, we'd love to talk to you. And I think that is a great time to kind of start talking about what are our future episodes going to look like. As we've gotten into this, we're going to start doing the Truck Advisor segment. We're going to start bringing on some industry professionals to help give you guys some more information. We'll talk about transmissions and turbos. I think our next two topics we're lining up.
Yeah, we're going to chat with Bob here from Duramaxtuner.
That's right, yeah. So we did Cummins Power. We got to get into Duramax Power.
Yeah, you can't just talk about one and not the other.
That's right.
Power strokes, we can do one about power strokes.
I think I got an idea, and I'm not going to release the
Don't
information yet.
spill the beans yet. Don't take the lid off this yet.
Right. If you are loving your oval, we have something coming for you in the future.
A treat.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, anything's a treat, I guess, if you're driving a Ford, in my experience. So,
hey, that's why jelly beans are different colors. There's something for everybody.
Oh, my God. You and my kindergarten teacher should get together on telling jokes, man. It would be the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I got more one-liners than anybody. So bring them on.
Excellent. So in today's episode, Danny, you got a chance to talk to Bob Petersen, Shotgun Bob.
Yeah, Bob Petersen. You know, if he's not hunting, he's tuning. If he's not tuning, he's hunting. So I was really excited to get a chance to talk to him. I never get a chance to talk to him. He's always so engulfed in his work.
Bob always brings a lot of solid information.
He does.
We're really glad that he came on the show today. Take it away, Bob and Danny.
We're going to talk about LB7 through LMELL, and hopefully Bob can give us some pointers that maybe you didn't know. So as far as an LB7, Bob, if you owned one, well, you used to own one, didn't you?
Yeah, I know two truck.
What did you do to have fun?
I mean, I'm a little impartial, I guess. I say tuning's always your first step. That's going to be the way I look at it and always have is, especially if you're buying an LB7, it's probably a budget build or, you're kind of money conscious. So for me, it's always bang for your buck. So $1 per horsepower, and you're not going to even touch anything compared to tuning. You spend $700-800 on a tune or a spaded, and you're going to get 100 horse on a stock trans out of that. So that's big power for small amount of dollar. There's a lot of bolt-on stuff you can do in LB7. You're definitely going to want to do something with the wastegate. So either a Banks big head wastegate or a boost valve to keep the wastegate closed a little longer. It's going to get more boost out of the factory charger and keep it cool. Obviously, boost is everything on these motors. So after that, really, you got your basic intake and exhaust and stuff like that. But at that power level, it's a real big misconception, I think, on stuff I've seen in the dyno and trucks I've tuned that you have to do an exhaust, you have to do an intake, you have to do gauges. A 100 horse tune on a stock trans LB7 with a boost valve is very safe EGTs wise. If you're going to use the truck for what the tune is designed for, you don't have to have gauges. A stock exhaust is going to run in the safe levels of temperatures and flow wise. The stock intake, my LB7, I made 545 horsepower on the stock intake. So.
We'll return to the Diesel Performance Podcast in just a moment, but first we want to hear from our sponsor, Calibrated Power Solutions of Marengo, Illinois, home of Duramaxtuner.com. Calibrated Power provides performance, engine, and transmission calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including Duramax, Cummins, John Deere, Jeep, and many more. Located in Marengo, Illinois, about an hour west of Chicago, CPS has a 16,000 square foot facility with a complete diesel shop and four-wheel drive dyno. For more information and great customer service, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920. Now, back to the podcast with Bob from Duramaxtuner.com and Danny Voss.
I mean, have you noticed that, there's obviously 01 to 04.5, you got your LB7. Can you make more power on an 01 versus an 04.5?
No. I mean, they're all same turbo, same injection system. I mean, it's all very similar and not relevant to peak power. So, I mean, the biggest thing, when you first step up to the plate is your trans is limiting you. So, like I said, that's about 100 horse in a stock trans, and then up from there, you get in that lift pump and built trans and stuff to get the max effort out of the stock turbo. So
that's awesome. I get asked a lot of questions, but for some reason, LLYs kind of have a bad name as far as being problematic. Have you personally owned an LLY, or I know you tune a bunch of them? But.
Yeah, I have not owned one. I mean, yeah, they do get a little bit of a bad rap. They were made for just a year and a half there. They were kind of in between the old reliable longest run on the, the LB7s are made for 3.5 years, 4 years or whatever. So, I mean, that, you come off of that and you run a truck for a year and a half they do, some of them do have head gasket problems. The injectors are better than the LB7s. So, I mean, they're not by any means, I would say, each Duramax has their pros and cons, so they get a little bit of a bad rap, but I wouldn't say they're bad by any means. You still got the 5-speed trans compared to LB7. Like I said, bang for your buck. I think tuning's still going to be first step on that. But there is some other parts you're going to want to address on an LLY, definitely over an LB7. Like I said on the LB7, intake exhaust isn't necessary. A turbo inlet mouthpiece is definitely necessity on an LLY. The factory mouthpiece is very, very restrictive. It's a real tight 90 sweep coming off the intake.
And the air just kind of swirls around there? It
slows it down. It swirls. It doesn't get a good draw by that, like I said, that tight angle, and it's restrictive there. A lot of guys will go to the L or the LBZ style mouthpiece, or S&B makes a really ballooned opening piece that doesn't restrict it and doesn't turn the air quick through that piece. So that's almost a necessity. I mean, GM was actually updating them for a while there because they were having overheating issues with them.
Right, that's what you hear a lot about, LLYs overheating. So as far as head gasket issues, do you think that's directly related to overheating?
I think it'd be really hard to prove that, I mean, it doesn't hurt, cooling the truck off and keeping it healthy is always a positive. So whether it saves your head gaskets or it just saves the motor or makes it run more power or more efficiently, it's a must do if you have an LLY. Next step would definitely this introduction of the fuel pressure relief valve on the back of the rail in a 04.5. Very problematic on stock trucks even. So again, something you want to address as soon as you get the truck if you're going to tune it.
Buy a relief valve?
Yeah, buy a relief valve.
And it's pretty easy deal. You torque it down to 65 foot-pounds of torque and get it in there because it's under high pressure and get it done. What is it, $50?
Yeah, $50 easy. Like I said, necessity though. It's overlooked by a lot of people. Like I said, I can't press enough that everybody says intake exhaust tune. There's other things to look at immediately, even sometimes before you get the tune. Like these parts, you'll see a stock truck be inadequate without these parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've heard that over and over again. I've never personally owned an LLY, but I've owned a bunch of LBZs, which are my favorite. What brings people to the LBZ over a lot of the other ones that you see?
Like we said, I mean, the LB7 had their injector issues. The LOIs had some head gasket issues. They both came with 5-speed transes, which are fine for 100 horse over stock, but they seem to not take an abuse very well. So you get an LBZ truck, which is a big jump. You get the 6-speed. I mean, 6 speeds are very, very resilient compared to a 5-speed. And, I've personally pushed 6 speeds in my personal truck and in customers' trucks. 130 horse is what we sell a stock trans package tune-wise. But, I mean, I've seen them 150, 180 horse. Some guys even running built trans tunes on them, being careful. You can make them last for a long time. You get on a 5-speed with a 180 horse tune a few times, and you're going to be in limp mode, and it's just going to go all downhill from there. The 6 speeds are pretty strong. So, I mean, that's the huge jump, in my opinion, if you buy a stock truck and you're looking to upgrade it. Like I said, that tuning, you also want to look at the relief valve. It's got the upgraded mouthpiece, so you don't have to do that. Intake exhaust gauges if you want, personal preference, but the truck's going to run fine at a stock trans power level with that stock exhaust, stock intake, stuff like that. It's not pushing the limits, so.
So, I mean, what does it really take for an LBZ to push that 530 marker, 550? I mean, what would you do if somebody called you and say, hey, I want 530 horse at the rear wheel? What can you tell them?
I mean, there's a couple options. It's really overlooked that I've done on one of my trucks, and I've done with some customers is, you don't have to do the $6,000 trans right away. If you're looking for a 500 horse truck, you can throw a converter, in a truck and a shift kit.
What kind of converter? I mean, there's so many different triple disc converters on the market. I mean, and I'm not trying to plug anybody here, but we just like to talk about what works. I mean, what works?
Yeah, I mean, in our built transes, we use Garin converters. We've had very good luck. It's a very smooth locking converter. The guys at ATS, we've had some good luck with their converters, just tossing a converter in a truck, like I said, with a shift kit.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two I'd recommend to you. But yeah, that's kind of your budget build trans on a 6-speed. If it's not super high miles and you just want that 500 horse, put a converter and a shift kit in it. The stock clutches, with the higher line pressure from the shift kit will hold, 500 horse, 530 horse. The limit of the stock turbo, more or less. Put a lift pump on the truck. The big thing is to keep in mind, though, if you're going to drop the trans to put a converter in it and you're going to drop the pan to put a shift kit in it, if you're not doing it yourself, you're going to pay a lot of labor for that. So if you do plan on making 600-700 horse with the truck in the future, it's not a good idea to do the budget build trans because you're going to have, $1,000 into labor, probably $1,500-$1,800 into parts. So, you're a little under $3,000 usually on a budget build, but then those stock clutches will be pushed to their limit if you go higher than that. So then you're like, oh crap, you're going back in paying another $1,000 in labor to have it dropped out and put the clutches in, and that's becomes the difference between $1,500 to $2,500, $3,000 again. So then you're spending $7,000 rather than $5,000 or $6,000 to begin with. So keep in mind what your power goals are in the future, and that's how I always tell everybody to build. Don't get too far ahead of yourself with fuel. Don't get too far ahead of yourself with air. Have a goal, shoot for it, and a budget, and really think ahead because you can get yourself in trouble buying the wrong parts at the wrong time.
You've never seen that before. Never. LBZs are really popular because they can handle a lot of power and not have to do very much to them compared to the other ones having a few problems. They don't run a FICM, a fuel injection control module. They don't run a few of the smaller things that were problematic in the previous years. But moving forward, I know you have a pretty cool truck. I absolutely love your truck. He let me drive it for a weekend, which is really cool. So I know what it takes to make power in an LMM, but the people listening want to know, what did you do to your truck to make it run so nice?
Yeah, I mean, I get to drive thousands of trucks, obviously, and dyno them and tune them, and that, I just took what I thought the best combination of everything was, and like I said, I shot for a power goal with a budget. I've got an LMM with LMELL rods and pistons in the motor, so just a budget build, cheap thing that I did to to kind of get the pistons out of the back of my mind, the LBZ and LMM pistons at 700 horse or a little more, sometimes depending on what you're doing, heat's the enemy of pistons, and so is high boost numbers. So I did that, but I did a stocker twin kit, so it's a stock Charger in the Valley with an S475. It's got 60 over exergy injectors, ATS dual fueler, built trans. It's my hunting truck, my daily driver, so I really wanted something that drove really nice, that wasn't obnoxious, that spooled quick. I mean, and to me, that's hands down the best thing you can drive is a stocker twin kit with a mild set of injectors and dual pumps, and it just it's no bullshit. It's a nice ride and
it's
smooth.
quiet.
Yeah.
It's so quiet. How did you get it? What kind of exhaust are you running?
It's actually got a big muffler on it, and so it's something I did to...
Muffler? What are you, like 50?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Bob.
It's nice to drive. I mean, all you hear is that turbo,
Yeah, it's definitely fun to listen to the turbo sing a little bit,
Yeah, well, you don't have that loud noise, and knock on wood, I've owned that truck for 4 years, and we haven't really gotten pulled over in it.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. The old truck, old LB7 on 20s and 35s and straight pipe roaring, they were just looking for an excuse. You want the exhaust ticket, you want spin the tires, you want tint.
How many tickets you want, Bob?
Pick your ticket. Now it's like
Petersen.
no tint, keep it low key and fly under the radar, and that's kind of my style.
Yeah, I had a cop ask me one time, how many tickets would you like tonight? And I said, well, 0, please. And he ended up giving me 1, but you don't ever want that question being asked.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that a couple times. Do you want the loud exhaust? Do you want the tint? Do you want which ticket do you want? So.
Well, you get older, you live and learn, and you learn, like you said, to stay off the radar, just to kind of blend in with traffic. But of course, there's always a couple guys out there that wanna, get the attention. But I gotta tell you, I'm gonna buy an LML. That's what I want. I got a wife now. We're gonna start a family. And what better truck to have as a family truck? And
jeez, you're calling me old. Come on.
Hey, I got a few years on you.
Oh.
If I waited any longer, she was going to disappear. She was tapping her foot, asking me, when are you going to, ask me the big question. So,
oh, jeez.
It was a tough one, but when you got a good one, you better hang on to her.
Yeah, that's for sure. Just like a truck, too.
Just like a truck. And it's funny, you held on to your truck for a long time, so it looks like you're pretty good at this commitment thing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully your girlfriend's listening to this, so she can be smiling ear to ear.
Yeah.
But back to, the LML. I got to tell you, I want an LML so bad. I've had a bunch of LBZs. I've already lived that scene over and over and over again. What brings people to the LML? They're so expensive, but what and why do people want to buy them?
I mean, they did them right. That's for sure. They upgraded everything on them. I mean, it's the best interior yet. The most comfortable, and you got your heated and cooled seats, and your Navi, and your sunroof, and your power slider, and your rear DVD, and you can get the Denali and the nicest truck yet. They also upgraded the motor. Like I said, I put the LML rods and pistons in my truck because they're strong. They're not going to make 1,000 horse on stock bottom end, but they're definitely stronger than the past years. And I've been running 750 horse for 40,000 miles on them, and haven't seen an issue with that. So you got a strong motor, power plant behind them. The injectors are bigger. The injectors are going to sport 50, 60, 70 horse more than the old ones. Get you in that mid to high 600 horse range.
Wow.
And the trans as well. The trans, we pushed them to up around 600 horse without, crazy abuse. They're good, whereas we were just talking on the 6 speeds, you might be able to get them up to 450, 480 horse. The 5 speeds, 400 horse. So, I mean, that's a huge jump. And it's a big thing that's saving your pocket. If you're looking at an LMM that's going to cost you 35 grand and you can buy an LML that's going to cost you 42, well, you got a trans already that's going to handle it. You got injectors that are going to handle it. If you're looking to build a 650 horse truck, well, you just saved, $6 grand on a trans, and you just saved a couple grand on going bigger on the injectors, and you're getting a little bit nicer truck too. So that's why I always tell guys is the LMLs are the king. they're really nice. A couple downfalls, I guess, to, you don't want to just spotlight everything as the good, but the LMLs do have the CP4 pump, which is weak. It's
The
tough.
high pressure injection pump.
Yep. Yeah, the high pressure injection pump is a CP4, whereas all the other Duramaxes had a CP3. CP4 is weak, so it doesn't make near as much power as a CP3 would. It's also prone to failure, and when it fails, it's going to throw contaminants into the injection system, usually ruin the injectors, and cost you a lot of money. So, I definitely recommend putting a lift pump on an LML immediately if you buy one. Is
Like
gonna,
that day.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea. It's going to keep a constant, dense supply of fuel that keeps the CP4 healthy. So if you're going to run the CP4 pump, get a lift pump on it immediately. If you have the ability to do it, throw a CP3 on the truck. They have conversion kits now. We sell one from S&S Diesel that you can even put on a compliant truck with the EGR on. You don't have to delete anything. Just throw it on there. It's going to be more reliable. It's going to make more power. That's the failure point of the LML, really, if you look at it.
That's the pitfall, is the CP4.
CP4, and there's no DSP switch on them, so you can't switch on the fly. But other than that,
Is that ever going to come out, you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's not up to me, so
Right.
it's hard to say.
Well, this is coming from a guy that has spent more time and has driven more miles on a dyno than most of our listeners have driven their diesel, period. And just like to thank you for coming on the show and spending a little time with us, because I know you're on the phone all the time. You're always tuning something, working through problems, and trying to help customers get their truck back on the road and right, looking at data logs and everything else that comes with it. But, I mean, real quick, I got to ask you, since we have you here, I mean, LML's, 2011 to present time, to go buy one, what's your favorite one? There's different ones.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely hard to turn down the 15s with the upgraded interior. I mean, they're all motor-wise and stuff going to be the same. So, if I was going to do it, I would, I have a pretty nice loaded LMM that lacking cooled seats and heated steering wheel, which I get a little heat from a couple of Denali buddies of mine, like, oh, you don't have that heated steering wheel, man. Once you have it, you never go back. Like,
they're right.
But, yeah, it'd be hard for me to upgrade to an old body style LML because it's pretty similar to my LMM as far as the Navi and sunroof and all that stuff. So I would go for the 15, 16, but I think I would change my mind next year when these 17s come out. Hopefully, all the hype's true about those things, and they should be another step in the right direction. So.
You come to work every day. What's the most common question you hear every day?
I don't. It's tough to say what's a common question. I mean, one thing is I always try and not cut somebody short when they call, but ask them when they call in, what do you use your truck for? What are your power goals? Try and establish, what this person's doing. You'll get a lot of people you'll call in and say, hey, I've got a 2012 Duramax, and they're like, oh, okay, you need this, 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 and this. Well, it's hard to say. You don't know what that guy's doing. You don't know what he's looking for.
Right.
So I always try and let the customer fill me in and key me in on what they're doing, what they're using the truck for, what they want out of the truck, what their plans are in the future. And then you can build around that. Like I said, you do one thing for a guy that's going to be happy at 500 horse and sell the truck in a year or two to do one thing, and then a guy that's planning on out of that truck for another 10 years and might put a built motor in and do other things. You want to advise them, especially on what they do. So I would say that, I don't have a specific question. I guess I try and steer people into giving me, more info about them so I can help their specific need for their truck. Probably the most common thing that I would say that I hate to see is over-fueling trucks. So, you get a guy that calls in with, I got a bone stock truck and my injectors went out, so I replaced them with 60% injectors. Well, your truck's an LB7 or an LLY, the bottom end on the motor is only going to hold about 650 horse safely, if that. So, that can be made with, you can make 600 horse on stock injectors. So why'd you just spend, $5,000 on 60% injectors and, the motor's never going to hold what that injector can make. So, it's a big misconception is over fueling the trucks. Stock injectors make 600 horse and they drive nice and they're efficient at that power level. And so, base your fueling around what your goals are. And that's, like I said, I can't say it enough is, find your goals and build according to your goals.
Well, most people trust your judgment. You're almost like a financial advisor at the same time. So let's talk about the big number. Everybody talks about the 1,000 horsepower at the rear wheels. Do you hear that a lot too? I mean, I hear it.
Yeah, I mean that's it used to be 600, it used to be 700. I started doing this stuff back in 08, 09. So back then, if you had a 500 horse truck, that was cool.
King of the streets,
You had a
man.
built trans. Yeah, I mean, built trans back then, tuning, lift pump. Not everybody was making 500 horse like they are today. And then it slowly got to 600 horse, people putting turbos. Then it got into injectors and then bigger turbos and then 700 horse. GT42 truck was like super badass back then. Holy shit, how is he spinning that big charger? Well, it keeps going and going and going. So now, 1,000 horse is the number, and a lot of guys will tell you on the phone, well, I'm not going to be happy with 950 horse. I'm going to be happy with 1,000. Like, I would put, $1,000 on that person. I put them in a seat of a truck that's 950 horse and a truck that's 1,000 horse, and they can't tell you the difference. That's the big thing to me is, I get to dyno these trucks and drive them, and it's about the usable power and where it makes the power in the RPM range. So you have these big trucks making, 1,300 horse. They're running very large, high pressure valley chargers, 75s in the valley, so that, you have that lag and the truck makes that power high in the RPM range, which is great for a competition aspect. But if you're driving the truck on the street, I mean, they're not undrivable on the street by any means.
Go for that low RPM.
But yeah, if, like I said, I built my truck with a stocker twin kit, it makes 750 horse. I could put an S480 on it and a 110 housing and make 800 horse. Or, you could do something with a variable vane and a 484 and get up to 900 horse and still have it drive nice. And that's the thing is, like, you feel that 0 to 60, that low RPM seat of the pants dyno. This truck feels fucking fast, holy cow. You get in it, puts you in your seat, puts a smile on your face immediately. You get into one of these real high horsepower trucks, and I've driven a ton of them, and you get on the street, you're driving around and you nail it and you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden it takes off and you're spinning the tires at 50, 60 miles an hour. Well, that's cool, but
It's unstable.
Yeah, you got to get up to that speed too. You got to have room to open up those things. It's something that it's definitely coming from my experience. I appreciate a 700 to 900 horse truck 100 times more than I do a 1,000 to 1,300 horse truck.
Well, that just goes back to you always asking those questions and figuring out what they're using the truck for, just so you can tune for drivability, so they can have a good experience on the road and be able to drive their truck every day and still have big numbers. So
Yeah.
I appreciate what you do. I know a lot of people do as well. And without guys like you, I mean, we would be stuck driving a boring stock truck. So, Bob, everybody talks about drivability. What is drivability? What is in your head, when you think drivability, what does it take to get a truck to drive right?
Yeah, that's a big term that's thrown around a lot, and I don't think, not to sound arrogant, but a lot of people understand what it is. I mean, I stress that I get to drive thousands of trucks and dyno them and tune them and stuff, and I get, I've been in the industry for 7 years or so, and that's the thing is, back in the day, it was. Everybody can make power, box programmers make power. Any guy with EFI Live can make a tune that makes power. That not all tunes and not all trucks are created equally. I mean, the big thing for me is I've talked about my personal truck, and I like it quiet, and I like it smooth, and I like the no bullshit. You look at back in the day, these box programmers and stuff were with really aggressive fuel pressure curves and very aggressive timing curves and pulse width curves. You had all your power immediately in the first, 30 to 50% of the throttle, the truck was on. If you've ever driven a Cummins with a Smarty, it's there. It makes power. It feels cool. but it doesn't shift nice. It's hard to drive around in traffic. It's hard to drive with a trailer. You got a really touchy throttle and a really aggressive power curve. It feels good, but when you go to maneuver a trailer around, you're backing your boat in the boat launch, and you're sitting there bucking Bronco, hitting the throttle on and off. Everybody's looking at you. You feel kind of like an idiot. And there's other people that say, "Oh, this is the best tuning I've ever had." Well, have you ever driven any other tunes? I get to drive trucks when they come in with other people's programs on them, and I get to feel how they don't shift very nice. Shift quality is very, very hard to iron out. A lot of people can tune a truck. You can jump in it and say, "Oh man, this is awesome. This is so nice. I'm super happy with it." Well, yeah, because it's better than stock.
Right.
Who isn't going to love 100 horse? But then, you might not try out somebody else's tunes and realize, that we spend a lot of time on the dyno and a lot of time on the street. We've had a four-wheel drive dyno in-house for years now. You see a lot of tuners that don't even have a dyno out there, or just getting into dynoing trucks. Like, it's hard for me to grasp how nice of a tool that is, and mapping out, power curves and then tuning the trans accordingly, and then going out in the street and making sure that the truck shifts. I don't want to feel my head move when the truck shifts. I want to just feel like it's constant power, shift, nice, nice throttle response, nice linear power curve, no smoke, no rattle, no noise. You want to be able to take your grandma for a ride in it and her feel comfortable, not in this smoky, rattly, bucking,
Right. Contraption.
Yeah, and it's like you said, I think you kind of got on me about being old, but even if you're young, I don't care if you like your truck to smoke and be loud and do burnouts and truck pull and drag race, but sooner or later you might just want to take the girlfriend out for dinner or something and not have the thing rattling and bucking and shifting like crap. Everybody's going to appreciate drivability, and that's a big thing. Is a lot of people don't understand the big difference. There's a lot of tuners out there, and I'm not saying everybody's bad except for us, but like I said, more and more people buying V2s out there and building tunes, and all of a sudden, I don't know when it came about, but like I said, 7 years ago, there wasn't much for EFI Live tuners out there. There was, a few of the big guys that are still around today, and that's a lot of time with, building tunes and making them drive correctly, and those guys out there with V2s are just throwing tunes together, and now all of a sudden an EFI Live tune's an EFI Live tune, and it's better than my box programmer, or better than that, and
Yeah, I hear these guys saying, "Oh, this tuner is way better than that tuner," and it's kind of like a piece of ass. You talk to somebody, they've never even had another piece of ass. They have just one, and now they're talking it up. They think it's the latest and greatest, but they've never had anything else.
yeah.
All of these trucks, in a sense, have their own personality, and everybody's using their truck for a different purpose. So how do you go about finding out that, you got a guy with a truck and you have a plan of action like you're talking about? What are you asking him to basically validate what he's using the truck for versus what I can help him with?
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is, like I said, I always try and start out with, what are you using your truck for? What size tires are on it? How many miles are on it? What are you using it for? What year is it? Get all the baselines. I want to learn to know the customer. Like I said, there's a lot of people that'll just say, "Oh, you got no 3, you need this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and that, and whatever." Some people don't need this. Some people don't need that. Some people would appreciate this over that. You can get into that all day, but the big thing is, is like I said, get a power goal and get a budget in mind. And the big thing is, like I said, you look at the LB7 and LLYs, and the weak spot is the connecting rods at the bottom of the motor. So, you want to have in mind that your power goal is going to be around 650 horse max on a stock motor, and unless you have the 8, 10, 15, 20 grand to go in and start doing motor work,
You better start farming.
yeah, then you get back in the LBZ LMM, and your piston failure, as I kind of touched on, is going to be your limit. So that's in the 700 horse to 800 horse range, depending on how you use it. So you want to get into the use of that. The LML is a little stronger, and we're not super confident on exactly where the power level is of the motor. I mean, I can definitely tell you it's, north of 750, maybe 800, maybe 850. I don't know.
That's the breaking point of it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know. I don't
Yeah.
think there's a lot of guys that, have beat the hell out of. I don't know a lot of guys that blew up LMLs not doing something stupid.
Right.
So,
You got to be trying to.
yeah,
hurt
you
something.
do something wrong or have a failure, something goes bad and something
Typically.
goes wrong. But, and that all that is based off of how to pick your power goal, then how you use the truck. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I've got an enclosed trailer. I tow my decoys around. I'm a big hunter, so I goose hunting, driving through cornfields, towing a boat, going out fishing in the summer, going out in the river, waterfowl hunting, or a small trailer deer hunting if we're heading out west or something like that. So I'm not pulling equipment around. I used to work construction, and I worked my old truck a little harder if I had to hook up to a skid steer trailer, a small dump trailer or something like that. But I that's why I asked what do you use your truck for, because a guy that uses his truck every day, he's hooked up to a trailer and pulling equipment around, you're going to want to recommend things that are more geared towards lower EGTs, drivability, longevity, versus your guy like me that I don't necessarily need a diesel truck, and I think a lot of guys listening to this might agree. We're not all towing 15,000 pounds on a weekly, monthly, or even yearly basis, but we want the power, we want the the platform and the.
And I'm not driving a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not driving a gas truck if I can afford it. So there you go. That's why I drive a diesel.
Exactly. So I mean that's what based around, like I said, the parts needed. If you're not working that and legging that truck out with 15,000 pounds behind it, you might not need an exhaust right away. You might not need certain parts. So, I mean, that's how you base, like I said, I stress more and more is get your power goals, get your budget, get what you use your truck for, and base everything off of that. And it'll save you time and money in the future and as your build evolves,
That is awesome. There you have it, folks. Bob Petersen with Calibrated Power.
Daddy, my all-time favorite analogy on earth will now be tuning. It's like a piece of ass. You got to have more than just one.
It's very true.
Words to live by.
Yeah,
Words
you
to live
can't
by.
just have one tuner and then tell all your buddies how great it is. You got to have something to go by besides just one.
I hear you. You need a baseline,
You do.
right? So you drove it stock. You got it tuned once. You got to try another tuner out there. I hear you on that. I think, like everybody knows that I'm a huge fan of the Duramaxes, especially the LML platform. I've never kept that a secret. It is always cool to hear about what all of the potential is with some of the older trucks. I think that was something that was really cool.
And that's what Bob touched on. We talked a lot about the older trucks and, LML and older.
Yeah.
But like you said, it always comes back to the new 15, the 16 LML. There's something about them that it's the latest, it's the greatest. They look cool. They have the most updated everything. So, yeah, if you got the cash, put it on the dash and put a down payment.
I dig it. Let's hear from the listeners out there. What's your favorite type of Duramax? Please post on our Facebook page, comment on this episode if you found us through a Facebook post. Get onto your Facebook forums, and let's really try to see how many people out there prefer an LB7 or prefer an LBZ, or how many people think I'm crazy for hating on the LLYs so much.
Let's find out.
Well, I do want to say once again, thank you so much for listening. We've really enjoyed putting this podcast together for you. I'm Paul Wilson.
And I'm Danny Voss.
Thanks for listening.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of Duramaxtuner.com, developer of performance engine and transmission calibrations for a wide variety of late model diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, John Deere, Jeep, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920.